Hello, my name is Joshua G.
Hello, my name is Edmund Chu.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Lee.
And today we are performing a 15-minute ab workout to demonstrate our camaraderie.
While also reciting our lineages.
One at a time.
Alright guys, first up, we are laying down on our backs, nice and simple. Legs are in a tabletop position. We're just doing some tabletop crunches. So lift your shoulder blades up.
I'm Joshua G.
I'm Edmund Chu.
My big is Jenna Hugh.
My big is Miss Haley Kang.
My big is Mr. Kevin Wong.
My G is Mr. Spencer Tran.
My G is Mr. Sean Bay.
My G is Miss Brooke Yasuda.
My 2G is Miss Mary Bond.
My 2G is Miss Anna Aguirre.
My 2G is Miss Michelle Tom.
My 3G is Mr. Andy Liao.
My 3G is Mr. Dang Lam.
My 3G is Mr. Hasten Chu.
My 4G is Miss Janice Kim.
My 4G is Miss Isabel Chang.
My 4G is Mr. Aaron Wong.
My 5G is Miss Michelle Murphy.
What do we got? 5G?
5G.
My 5G is Mr. Ted Kim.
My 5G is Miss Catherine Larchevic.
My 6G is Mr. Jonathan Wong.
My 6G is Mr. Simon Sabir.
My pseudo line, my pseudo big is Mr. Gion Boko.
My 7G is Mr. K Shao.
My pseudo line starts at Miss Celine Lam. That is my pseudo big.
My pseudo G, or my pseudo 2, my pseudo G is Miss Tina Yoon.
My 8G is Miss Jessica La.
Oh, sorry, my fault. My pseudo 2G is Mr. Brian Lee.
My pseudo 2G is Mr. Albert Liu.
My 9G is Miss Erica Flores.
My pseudo 3G is Mr. Albert Huang.
My pseudo 3G is Adrian Dang.
My 10G is Miss Ashley Guzman and Mr. Matthew Hilton.
My pseudo 3G is Mr. Kevin Schmidt.
My pseudo 4G is Mr. Stephen Young.
My 11G is Miss Elizabeth Burley.
My 4G, my pseudo 4G is Miss Vivian Nguyen.
My pseudo 5G is Miss Bailey Rappaport.
My 12G is Miss Jennifer O.
I think I'm doing it wrong.
My pseudo 5G is Mr. Kevin Nguyen.
My 6G is Mr. Peter Yang.
My 13G is Mr. Edward Chu.
My 7G, my pseudo 7G is Mr. Giovanni Salinas.
My 7G is Mr. Isaiah Herrera.
My 14G is Miss Christina Fong.
My 6G is Mr. Simon Sabir.
Is it 8? My 8G is Miss Stephanie Wu.
My 15G is Miss Phoebe Nguyen.
My 7G is Miss Audrey Chang.
My 9G is Mr. Albert Nyo.
My 16G is Miss Ursula Varga.
My 8G is Mr. Dawarik Injamari.
What is it?
Thanks.
My 10G is Miss Victoria Guar.
My 17G is Miss Ursula Varga.
My 9G is Miss Chelsea Fan.
My 11G is
Gotta get down to
Mr.
the G.
Alright.
Mr. Takashi Hirase.
Oh, wait, we gotta.
My 18G is Mr. Richard Oberlander.
My 10G is Miss Justine Say.
My 12G is Mr. Jin Kim.
My 19G is Miss Tiffany Kuatani.
My 11G is Mr. Shivan Patel.
My 13G is Mr. Roger Keem.
My 20G is Mr. Tim Chen.
My 12G is Mr. Sanaz Mohini.
My 14G is Miss Jane Fung.
My 21G is Miss Irene Odom.
My 13G is Miss Jane Kim.
My 15G is Mr. Randy Lee.
My 22G is Mr. Andy
My 14G is Mr. Michael Lee.
My 16G is Miss Sherry Wang.
Oh, sorry. My 22G is Miss Young Lu.
My 17G is Miss Sarah McQuindang.
My 17G is Mr. Chris Wayne.
Alright, back to me. My name is Joshua G.
My 18G is Miss Romina Kim.
My 18G is Mr. Jonathan Osado.
My big is Miss Jenna Yu.
My 19G is Miss Annie Shin.
My 19G is Miss Shan Lee.
My G is Mr. Spencer Tran.
My 20G, the founder of my lineage, is Mr. George Yen.
My 19G is Mr. Mike Lee.
My 2G is Miss Mary Bond.
Starting from me again, my name is Edmund Chu.
My founders is Miss Amy Chu.
My 3G is Mr. Andy Liao.
My big is Miss Haley Kang, and my pseudo big is Miss Celine Lam.
It's back to me, and I am Benjamin Lee.
My 4G is Miss Janice Kim.
My G is Mr. Shambay, and my pseudo 2Gs are Mr. Brian Lee and Mr. Albert Huang.
My big is Mr. Kelvin Mong, and my pseudo big is Mr. Jian Boko.
My 5G is Miss Michelle Murphy.
My 2G is Miss Anna Aguirre, and my pseudo 2G is Mr. Kevin Schmidt.
My pseudo G is Miss Brooke Yasuda, and my pseudo G is Miss Tina Yu.
My 6G is Mr. Jonathan Huang.
My 3G is Mr. Ding Lam, and my pseudo 3G is Miss Vivian Nguyen.
My 2G is Miss Michelle Tong, and my pseudo 2G is Mr. Albert Liu.
My 7G is Mr. K Shao.
My 4G is Miss Isabel Chiang, and my pseudo 4G is Mr. Kevin Nguyen.
My 3G is Mr. Hasten Chui, and my pseudo 3G is Adrian Dang. Miss Adrian Dang.
My 8G is Miss Jessica La.
My 5Gs is Mr. Ted Kim, and my pseudo 5G is Mr. Giovanni Salinas.
My 4G is Mr. Aaron Huang, and my pseudo 4G is Mr. Steven Young.
My 9G is Miss Erica Flores.
My 6G is Mr. Simon Sabir.
My 5G is Miss Kathleen Narchevik, and my pseudo 5G is Miss Bailey Rappaport.
My 10G is Miss Ashley Guzman and Mr. Matthew Hilton.
My 7G is Miss Audrey Chang.
My 6G is Mr. Peter Yang.
My 11G is Miss Elizabeth Early.
My 8G is Mr. Dewarik Injamari.
My 7G is Mr. Isaiah Herrera.
My 12G is Miss Jennifer O.
My 8G is Miss Chelsea Fan.
My 8G is Miss Stephanie Wu.
My 13G is Mr. Edward Shu.
My 10G is Miss Justine Hesse.
My 9G is Mr. Albert Yo.
My 14G is Miss Christina Fong.
My 11G is Mr. Siobhan Patel.
My 10G is Miss Victoria Gore.
My 15G is Miss Phoebe Nguyen.
My 12G is Mr. Sanaz Mohseni.
My 11G is Mr. Takashi Hirase.
My 16G is Miss Ursula Barga.
My 14G, my 15G is Miss Jane Kim.
My 12G is Miss Jin Kim.
My 18G is Mr. Richard Oberlander.
My 14G is Mr. Michael Lee.
My 13G is Mr. Roger Kim.
My 19G is Miss Tiffany Kuatani.
My 15G is Miss Sarah McQuinde.
My 14G is Miss Jade Fung.
My 20G is Mr. Tim Chan.
My 16G is Miss Romina Kim.
My 15G is Mr. Randy Lee.
My 21G is Miss Irene Odom.
My 17G is Miss Annie Shin.
My 16G is Miss Sherry Wang.
My 22G is Mr. Andy
My 18G and the founder of my lineage is Mr. George Yen.
My 17G is Mr. Chris Wang.
My 22G is my founder, Miss Yan Lu.
Back to me, my name is Edmund Chu.
My 18G is Mr. Jonathan Osado.
Back to me, my name is Joshua G.
My big is Miss Haley Kang. And my pseudo big is Miss Celine Lam.
My 18G is Miss Shanley.
My big is Miss Jenna Yu.
My G is Mr. Shambe
My 19
and Mr. Brian Lee and Mr. Albert Huang.
My 19G is Mr. Mike Lee.
My G is Mr. Spencer Chan.
My 2G is Miss Anna Aguirre and Mr. Kevin Schmidt.
My founder of my lineage is Miss Amy Chu.
My 2G is Miss Mary Bond.
My 3G is Mr. Dang Lam and my pseudo 3G is Miss Vivian Nguyen.
Back to me. My name is Benjamin Lee.
My 3G is Mr. Andy Liao.
My 4G is Miss Isabel Chang, and my pseudo 4G is Mr. Kevin Nguyen.
My big is Mr. Kelvin Long. And my pseudo big is Mr. Jian Boko.
My 4G is Miss Janice Kim.
My 5G is Mr. Ted Kim and Mr. Giovanni Salinas.
My G is Miss Brooke Yasuda, and my pseudo G is Miss Tina Yoon.
My 5G is Miss Michelle Murphy.
My 6G is Mr. Simon Sabir.
My 2G is Miss Michelle Tong, and my pseudo 2G is Mr. Albert Liu.
My 5G, my 6G is Mr. Jonathan Fong.
My 7G is Miss Audrey Chang.
My 3G is Mr. Hasten Chui, and my pseudo 3G is Miss Adrian Yoon. Miss Adrian Yang.
My 7G is Mr. K. Shao.
My 8G is Mr. DeWarwick and Jamari.
My 4G is Mr. Aaron Huang, and my pseudo 4G is Mr. Stephen Dang Young.
My 8G is Miss Jessica La.
My 9G is Miss Chelsea Fan.
My 5G is Miss Catherine Larchevek, and my pseudo 5G is Miss Bailey Rappaport.
My 10G is Miss Erica Flores.
My 10G is Miss Justine Hase.
My 6G is Mr. Peter Dang.
My 11G is Miss Ashley Guzman and Mr. Matthew Hilton.
My 11G is Mr. Siobhan Patel.
My 7G is Mr. Isaiah Herrera.
My 12G is Miss Elizabeth Early.
My 11G is or my 12G is Mr. Sanaz Mohseni.
My 8G is Miss Stephanie Wu.
My 13G, or my 12G is Miss Jennifer O.
My 13G is Miss Jane Kim.
My 9th G is Mr. Albert Yo.
My 13G is Mr. Edward Chu.
My 14G is Mr. Michael Lee.
My 10G is Miss Victoria Guar.
My 14G is Miss Christina Fong.
My 15G is Miss Sarah McQuinding.
My 11th G is Mr. Takashi Hirase.
My 15G is Miss Phoebe Nguyen.
My 16G is Miss Romina Kim.
My 12th G is Miss Jin Kim.
Alright.
My 17G is Miss Annie Shin.
My 16G is Miss Ursula Bargouth.
My 18G and the founder of my lineage, the most fire lineage, is Mr. George Yen.
The rest of my lineage is Mr. Richard Oberlander, Miss Tiffany Kuotani, Mr. Tim Chen, Miss Irene Odom, Mr. Andy and Miss Yan Lu form the cutest lineage.
My 13G, the rest of my lineage goes Miss Jane Fung, Mr. Randy Lee, Miss Sherry Wang, Miss Sherry Wang, Miss, what is it? Is it Mike? Is it Mike? Oh no, Mr. Chris Wang, Mr. Jonathan Osado, Miss Shan Lee, Mr. Mike Lee, and my founder of the best lineage is Miss Amy Chui.
Thank you guys for
Thank you
watching.
for watching.
Bye bye.
We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.